1947, we have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources.
Fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. That's not LNS though, is it? It's not. It is an LNS, man. Well, if there's anything.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
Unidentified Anomalous Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 22 of the Unidentified Anomalous Podcast. I'm Digby Furno, and I am the one that's not moving because my camera is completely frozen.
And I am the one who is infinitely enjoying this never-ending beer. So Digby's got some internet stuff going on. His upload speed is nothing to write home about at the moment, so he kept freezing and glitching and stuff. So I said, yo, man, you should just probably put up a photo, and you know what I mean? Because it can be a little distracting if someone's watching and you see that over and over again. It just doesn't have a good look to it. But you know what? We roll with our punches here at the show in real time, and we deal with things as they come. Digby, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. I am good. I'm also absolutely exhausted. It's been a hell of a week. It's been incredibly busy, as you know, Tom, setting up the New Paradigm Media Group. We've launched our website this week. We've got jobs coming in, which is amazing. We've got some possibility to work with some amazing people coming up. We had a long meeting earlier today with Astral, who's been on the show, who's coming on board with the New Paradigm Media Group.
Excited, man.
To do some audio work and some graphic design work. There you go, Tom, like an absolute pro. He's got our website up. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do. It is www.newparadigmmg.com. That's www.newparadigmmg.com. Have a look, check it out, look at the About section, see what we're all about, check out the ethos behind the company that we're setting up. Tom and I are really excited to bring this to fruition. It's going to be amazing, Tom.
I think it is. Digby, I feel really good about it. The fact that Tyler, as you guys know him better as Astro, is coming on board with us. One of the most talented and genuine people that I know. And that's an honor and a pleasure because I just love, no matter what the project is, I love having him. Big or small, no matter what it is that we're working on, and I'm so thankful that he was so excited to be a part of this, as am I. Yeah. I'm very proud to be a part of something like this, and I think that big things are just around the corner here, and we're gonna do some good with this too. It's not just about pulling in money to survive and things, but like we want to make some changes in the world of media. That's a big part of our mission statement, which I can show you guys really quickly. Actually.
Yeah, go for it. Go to the About section.
And I'll read it to you guys for anybody that's just doing audio only. Well, here, I'll at least read this because this really does kind of sum it up. Mainstream is dead. In an era where mainstream media's influence wanes under the weight of eroded trust and outdated practices, the rise of independent voices and new media heralds a transformative shift in how we consume information. This evolution is driven by a quest for authenticity, depth, and meaningful engagement, values often sidelined by traditional outlets in their chase for sensationalism. As digital platforms democratize content creation, they empower diverse narratives and foster a participatory culture where dialogue and transparency reign. In this vibrant new landscape, New Paradigm Media Group stands at the forefront, championing the voices that shape our understanding of the world, not through the lens of sensationalism, but with the clarity of truth and the richness of diverse perspectives. We want to welcome open-minded perspectives. It's okay to have 10 people in a room that have 10 different ideas and none of them agree with each other, as long as everybody's treating each other with respect, courtesy, dignity, and love. That's how we're going to do things properly. That's what this company is about. And we, you know, we could talk about UFOs, but there's a lot of other subjects that branch off of this that a lot of people who are into UFOs have a shared interest in. Near-death experiences, remote viewing, you know, anything that is quote unquote fringe, right? Or mysterious, unexplained.
Yeah, I
Those
mean,
things are very much part of this, but also from a political perspective, we can incorporate that as well. Like
yeah,
we want to
we can
very
touch more
much
with this than we do on the show as well. I think
exactly. We want to drive home support for freedom of press, freedom of speech with responsibility, of course.
Yeah.
And
So-
you know, try to work to get things back to where they should have been.
So, I mean, my general thought process when I came up with the idea of setting this up was creating a company that was a group of people from all around the world with extraordinary abilities and talents in media, whether that be from documentary production, podcast production, music, printed press, anything that is currently controlled by big media outlets, and make it more independent, but keep the production value really, really high. So we will be working on documentaries for clients, podcast production. In fact, I'm already working on a podcast production for a company back in the UK about alternative medicines. We'll be doing some charity work. I've already got a documentary in production at the moment, which will be out by the end of next week, for a charity called Cask Research UK. So that's already in production. So this company, although we're launching the website now, I have been singly running this for the last couple of months, getting it going in the background, and now it's got to the point where I can't do it by myself, and I don't want to do it by myself. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my talents, but you know, when it comes to producing a full feature-length documentary that's of the quality that will be purchased by Netflix and Amazon and the likes of, that's not my forte. So we are looking for people to join New Paradigm Media Group. We already have some fantastic people coming on board. A dear friend of mine, Alex, back in the UK, who is a fantastic documentary film producer and director. He is looking at coming on board. He's done some amazing work. If anybody has Netflix, which I'm sure you do, if you check out Brave Blue World on Netflix, that's Brave Blue World. That's a documentary that Alex produced and directed, with the likes of Matt Damon, and Jaden Pinkett Smith, and you know, he's an exceptional talent, as well as some newsreader friends that I've got back in the UK. They're coming on board to do both presenting and writing. We've got Astral coming on board, who's going to be taking lead with the audio side of the business, and we're basically putting a collective of people from all around the world. So when Tom and I go out there and get jobs and get these clients on board to produce their documentaries or their podcasts, we have a database full of people from all walks of life all around the world that can come together to produce these excellent independent pieces of work that aren't going to be controlled by big media companies. So that's basically
right.
the idea. And if you have
got some
time,
merch up
please,
too, right, Digby?
Yeah, go for that next.
I just showed it the hoodies and stuff. And today after the show, I'm going to be spending at least a couple hours working on some designs that I've been whipping up to try to you know, meet everybody's suitabilities. It's not just about, hey, we like your show, we're gonna rock your logo, and like, oh, you watch Unidentified Anomalous Podcast, so do I. I'm gonna make some designs that relate to what we talk about. Like I'll give you one example. I'm actually working on one that says UAPOD, but the logo and the artwork is as if our show was a radio show in like the 70s, right? Like just neat stuff like that, right? Like just messing around. I love doing stuff like this. This is where I really shine. Is like coming up with
You're already
creative,
shining. What are you
artistic
talking
ideas. It's well, I have two ring lights on me, so I would hope that I'm shining at this point. I'm so excited for this, Digby. I really am. And listen, man, I like as much as I am a part of this, like this is very much your idea. And you know what I mean? And we're partners on this, obviously, but you thought of this. And it's I mean, it's along the lines of what I've been wanting to do is create like a media company, but it's like you took what I was seeing in my head and then you pushed the ball down the field a little bit. Now it's my turn to take the ball and push the field down, push the ball down the field a little bit by creating some designs. And that's called teamwork, man. You know what? That's what this is. But you really killed it over the last week, putting the website together and such. It looks absolutely fantastic,
I'm really proud
and
of it.
and
I am.
I think it looks really good, really good. Squarespace, shout out to Squarespace too, because I guess that's what you used to make the website, right? I hope that's right. Okay, cool.
We
I
did
was like,
some
please let
Squarespace.
that be the right one.
Yes. And for
It
those
looks
of you
good,
that
man.
want to know the shop, the merchandise that we are going to be selling on the shop, it is through a subsidiary of Squarespace. So yes, it is drop shipping. We do want to let you know that, but it is from a reputable company. It's not coming from the arse end of China and going to get you in 3 months and then you'd be charged loads of tax by the time it turns
Yeah,
up
this
there.
isn't Temu.
You know, these are being produced in both the US, Canada, and the UK, and will be dispatched from there, whichever is closest to wherever you live. Oh, sorry. If you can hear that in the background, that is the
Whoa.
puppy.
Oh,
That's the puppy.
puppy.
That's
We'll
the
get into
puppy
that
we
in a second
rescued.
too. We need
Yes.
to I don't think
So
everybody
yes,
knows
we
about
will.
that. But real
But
quick, Digby, if I just want to say, if anybody in the chat has any ideas for merch that they could see themselves purchasing or enjoying, feel free to leave us some feedback. If you have any design ideas and want to see us like kind of bring it to life, I'm open to that too. If you got a cool
well,
idea, because
we
we're a big family here.
I tell you what, as we're all about participation and we're all about people getting involved with the show, how about this for a juicy little idea? We have, I'll put up my email address for New Paradigm Media Group in a second. If you have an idea for some merchandise and a design, you must have the design as well. And you email it to me and we use it and we sell it through the site.
I see where you're going.
You will get paid. So if you have a design that you want to see on our store, get that design up, use Canva, whatever program you want, send it to us in a high-res image. If we use it, you will get 50% of the profit of the sale of that item.
That's a good idea.
Okay?
I think that's absolutely fair.
And the other
Especially
50% of the profit will go towards New Paradigm Media Group and future productions that we do. So get on it, get involved, share the website, have a look at the merchandise we've already got up there, think outside the box, come up with some crazy designs, some crazy graphics, go
stuff.
cartoon on it if you like. And actually, that's a good lead into our next guest that we've got coming on.
It really
show.
is, actually.
Yes.
Talented guy.
Yes, you've spoken to him more than I have. I've done a little bit of research on X as well, but Arron's coming on the show to talk about his experiences in just a few minutes. So we're going to wrap things up on this part, but please do check out New Paradigm Media Group, so newparadigmmg.com. And I will put up my email address in a few seconds. So send all designs.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, just send all designs to digby@newparadigmmg.com.
As far as Arron goes, I purposefully wanted to come in as a blank slate. I have a basic overview of what his lifelong experiences have been. At least, like, I know it's been going on since his childhood. I know it involves the Greys, and that's about all I know. He had a post that like went kind of viral in the community. It's sitting at about 800 something likes, and it's funny because I had reached out to him already before that. We accidentally ran into each other on one of my threads, and just the things that he was saying really resonated with me. We got to talking, and I was like, hey, you want to come and share that with us? Because like I always want to get experiences on here because we want to give those people a voice and a proper platform to share their experiences in a judgment-free zone, outside of just being in Twitter Spaces or maybe a couple subreddits that are out there. But like really have a sit-down conversation. And he agreed, and he He's a comic book illustrator, it appears, or at least has that ability, so he's very talented. His girlfriend is also an ex. She seems really cool as well, has had some really incredible experiences herself, it seems. But I'm coming in very much as a blank slate. I want to react in real time to his story and really ingest it from him verbally. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, gotcha. So Sandy knows who we're talking about. And also, by the way, I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat, and thank you so much for being here with us as always. We've been doing this for a couple months now, obviously, more than a couple months. We're on episode 22. It went by so quick, and I just want to say that I'm very grateful to have you guys here in the chat. The usuals, Paul, Sandy, Steven. I see Invisible Light Spectrum is here. It's nice, man. It's nice to be able to do this every week and be here with Digby, who is
We
obviously
love it.
my dear friend at this point. And I
Yeah,
guess
the
so. Arron will be
unmovable
joining
face.
us
Any
any
second.
moment now, any
Any
second now. But Digby, why don't you tell everybody really quick about the pup?
Yeah. Oh, I sent you a picture, didn't I, on WhatsApp? Maybe you could have the ability to share that up on the screen.
Mhm.
So I'm currently living in Maleft in Morocco, as anybody who watches the show every week will already know. Our local town is about 45-minute drive away, and it's called Tisnit. So you have to drive pretty much through the desert to get there. And I was about 5 miles outside of Tisnit, driving down this road, and all of a sudden I see this puppy in my rearview mirror, and it's running down the road, chasing the car. And I was like, "Oh God!" And there's cars behind this puppy. I was like, "That dog's going to get run over." So I pull over the car and try and get the dog out of the road, and it runs right over to me. Now this puppy can only be about 2 months old. It's 5 miles away from the nearest town. There's no houses around. Let's face it, this dog has been driven out to the desert and dumped. And I couldn't leave it there. So I bent over and picked the dog up, and it came home with us. And there we go.
Such
There
a
is
good
Pup
girl.
working with me last night into the wee hours of the morning.
She's so cute. I got to get the
so
other
now
photo
she lives
of
with
her
us.
face, though. Let me grab that
So-
one real quick, though. And you named her Nala.
So she's called Nala.
Good name, man.
The kids named her after the lion from The Lion King, and she's wonderful. I mean, as soon as we get over the point of her peeing and pooing in the house, everyone will be a lot happier, especially my wife, who
Here's
looks
the
at me with disdain every time the dog has an accident. But it's okay. We're going to get over that. It's fine. But
This is very human of you, man. Because if this had been me, I would have done the same thing. I mean, look at her. Oh my God! If I had seen Nala running around in the desert, she would have come home with me too, man.
She can't
Like,
be any
look,
more than
come
about 2
on.
months old as well.
She's so small.
Yeah.
I'm so
and
soft for
and
animals.
the
Oh my
week
God.
before, my wife brought home a cat. So
Yeah, and the cat's cute too. Listen, from the photos that you sent me, I could tell that these animals are so appreciative of the fact that you've given them a home. And that's
Yeah.
awesome. Like
I
that,
just can't take
that like
anymore.
that dude, that tear jerks me. Like I love my dog. I miss the dogs that I've had, that I've grown with, that have passed on but they lived long and healthy, happy lives. And I love them so much. I wish they were around longer with us. You know, they're only with us for kind of a short period of time. Like, you know, you sometimes, if you're lucky, you get maybe 2 decades. So I think the cat and the dog were both meant to be in your household, and they're going to be companions. And I'm really happy to see this. Stuff like this makes me so happy, dude. Like seriously, it really like
I'm not sure
like,
my wife
warms
will
my
be
heart.
so happy when I go back to England in just over 2 weeks' time for the
Aw.
weekend and leave her with both children.
You know what's so
and
funny though?
3
Years from
dogs and a
now, she'll
cat.
be like, "That was worth it." I guarantee you. She's gonna be cuddling with Nala on the couch one night, and she's gonna be like, "You know what? That was worth it." But
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
our
We'll
guest
see.
is here.
Anyway, we digress. Enough of the puppy and the
digress.
dodgy photos on the bottom of the screen.
That's so funny. All right, we're gonna bring in
Paul's
Arron.
responsible for the images along the bottom of that screen.
Yeah, and his drunken antics at the bar in Albania. Like It's insane.
Oh, actually, no. Do you know what? Towards the end of the show, sorry, Paul, I think we have to do this unless you tell us not to in the
Oh
chat.
no.
But there was a video that he sent us of him singing in a bar in Albania. So I think objection from Paul. And even if there is, I think we'll probably still do it anyway. We will play the video at the end of the show.
Gotcha. I guess we'll do that. All right, I'm going to bring in Arron. And hopefully we don't scare him off before we even start talking to him. Hey, Arron, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for being on the show with us, man.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm not scared.
That's good.
From the sound of things, you've seen worse things.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? That's definitely fair. So, Arron, why don't you introduce?
Oh, Tom's taken himself off the video, and maybe he's lost connection. Oh, good. We're having lots of problems this evening. Anyway, Tom will be back in a second. Arron, thanks for coming on the show. And here's Tom. He's back.
Sorry about that. Everything just stopped and like the page refreshed. But yeah, Arron, if you could tell us who you are and what are your passions in life, man? What do you do?
Well, I am a former teacher. I taught U.S. history, U.S. government, and also special education. I transitioned out of that because it was a very frustrating experience being a teacher. I could talk about that all day, and that's not why I'm here.
My cousin's a teacher. I hear all about it all the time.
Okay, so you know,
I know.
You know what I'm talking about.
Underpaid and underappreciated, in my opinion.
It just became clear very quickly that what I wanted to do wasn't what teaching actually was. So then I transitioned into writing and illustrating, which is what I currently do full time. Along with being a stay-at-home dad and all that, sharing my experience had never publicly, that wasn't ever something I had planned on doing. It was something that it took a long time for me to sort of come to terms with it and stuff, because it altered the course of my life, forever. I doubt I would have been very into this topic had that not happened to me, but the UAP, transparency movement and all that stuff is very important to me, and it's something I'm passionate about. And then when I saw Dave Grush go public, it was, and the more I listened to him speak, it was like, okay, well, I'm not one of these military guys, but I do have firsthand experience with the other, aspect of the phenomenon. And it felt wrong to not go public because this is, it's real, people can believe it or not. It's really happening, they're here. And the only way to combat misinformation and disinformation is for people with actual information to come forward and share and whatnot. And so that's
Arron,
what I'm trying to do.
You're absolutely right. And it's a key thing for everybody to remember here as well. It's all great whistleblowers coming forward from the government and speaking about their experiences and their first-hand experiences, which I think we're going to hear more about over the coming months. But what makes it so special just because they're in the military? There are countless people around the world who are having experiences all the time. And why is nobody listening to them? Why do we have to wait for it to come from a government official? It's like we're just all what are we, government puppets here, sitting around waiting to be told what to do and what to believe and what not to believe because somebody that apparently has been elected by us or not, as the case may be, tells us that's what we need to hear. Come on, disclosure at this point, I think, is going to be led by the people, and it's only through talking to people like you, Arron, that we can actually get to the bottom of what people's experiences are and what's really happening. So I thank you so much for coming on the show today and for as you're going to do, tell us all about your experiences.
Arron, if I may, before we dive into what you've encountered, you made a point that really kind of harkens back to the Zoom call we had with Astral this morning. that now we're living in a day and age, especially within like the last week, technically, because of things that have been released and announced, that video evidence and photographic evidence are taking another nosedive, where the credibility and legitimacy of such will be questioned harder than it ever has been at any point in history. Back in the 60s and the 70s, if someone presented a photograph of a UFO, there was no question about whether or not it was Photoshop. Like, yes, fabrication, sure, but that it came down to like, can somebody take a photo of a model or throw something up in the air? But now we have AI generated video technology, which obviously just took another leap this week.
Huge leap.
Now we're in a situation where I personally believe that people like you, even me, because I'm an experiencer myself, and anybody else that has anecdotal evidence, you are now pushed to the top at this point, because we can do certain things to measure truth, right? I would urge certain people, I'm not saying you even have to do this, but like, we need to start hooking people up to lie detectors and be like, listen, this person's telling the truth, this person's telling the truth, this person's telling the truth. And in the least, we then know that person believes that they had this experience, and you cannot change that. And the only way that they're going to come to that particular conclusion, chances are, it happened. So that's where we're at. You are at the forefront now of what evidence, to me, holds maybe the most weight next to biological and physical materials that could be shown in a scientific capacity. But I'm really, really, really curious. Where did this all start for you? And why don't you give us a good rundown of this, I guess multiple events that obviously changed the course of your entire life.
Yeah, well, it started and ended, insofar as I can currently remember anyhow, when I was a kid. Best as I can recall, between the ages of like 7 or 8, I can remember clearly, and then it hard stop, insofar as I can remember, at age 10. The first clear experience that I can remember happened when I was 8. And I posted about it. I've made, I think, 4 posts about it now on X. So the first experience happened, I was, sleeping in bed at night. And at the time, I would listen to like the radio to help me fall asleep. I listened to NPR as a kid to go to sleep, just because it was like mind-numbingly boring, and it just put me to sleep.
That's so true.
I stopped listening to it eventually, because they started talking about like all the Bill Clinton stuff, because this was the 90s and that stressed me out. But at the time, I was listening to NPR, and I remember the first thing that happened was my radio went out. And then I was just laying there in my bed, and I had this windowsill, the blinds were shut just enough to where when I was laying in my bed, I could sort of see up into the sky, like above the house of our neighbors. And I suddenly got a really weird feeling. I really don't know how else to describe it. It was just, I felt weird. It felt like being watched. And then I saw it was like a green light. I saw lights. I saw a craft like fly over my house, like fly right past the view of the window, like in the sky. It was, and this is not something, I don't think I've ever actually talked about this part of it publicly. I've never actually gone through it like this. I'm realizing as I'm talking, but it was a green light in the center, and then it was green lights like around the edges of like a disc-shaped thing that in the night sky just looked like a dark disc, and the lights were rotating, and I saw it come over my house. I had no idea what it was, because I wasn't aware of this topic at all at that point. I had no idea what it was. And then I looked I looked to see if it would come back, and then like maybe like a few minutes later, I heard footsteps in my hallway. And, you know, when you're a kid, you learn what your parents' footsteps sound like.
Yes.
You know, like my mom was a stomper, you know, and my dad kind of just dragged his feet. And I knew it wasn't my parents. I knew it wasn't my little brother. And it sounded like a group of people walking through the hallway. And at this point, I slept with my door open, and my room was dark, but the hall lights were on. And I saw this group of beings, like 5 or 6 of them, I think, came into my room. And they just stood there for a minute, and I just looked at them, and my mind kind of just went blank because I was terrified, because there were these weird looking. My very first thought were like, who the hell are these weird looking kids in my room? Because they were my size. And, you know, I had seen the image. I mean, you know, I had of course seen the image of a gray alien before. So like, I understood that, okay, like these are like, my mind just went blank. And I felt, this is where it gets difficult, because I don't even know how really to describe this in words, but I felt I had a sudden, very strong knowing, like nothing I had ever felt before, that like I was supposed to go with them. And so I went with them. I didn't feel coerced, but the feeling of that knowing that I had to go with them being that strong, I don't know, I just got up and went with them. I wish I had any other way to describe it but that. And they led me down the hallway, and then from the hallway out through the living room, and then from the living room, they led me outside the glass patio, the glass doors that led to the patio in the backyard. And I got into the backyard, and I saw this disc-shaped craft, like right above. There was this big tree in my backyard, and it was hovering right above the tree, like there was a creek that ran through my house in the back, and then in the backyard itself there was this big tree, and it was hovering right above the tree line, like not over my house but over the backyard. And I followed them until I was standing with them directly under the craft. And then I looked up, and the light became so bright that I had to like shield my eyes. And then when the light dimmed, I found myself on this craft, and in this white room, and the floor felt spongy. Like it felt like what I would compare it to now is like, not memory foam, but there's this type of like rubber that they put down, this rubber turf that they put on playgrounds now.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It felt like a lot like that. But the room was white, and there was this like table in the middle that it looked like it was made of the same material, and it looked like it was just attached to the floor. Like it looked like everything was just a part of everything. There was this thing that was coming down from the ceiling that reminded me of like a dentist's light at the time. And I got another knowing that I was supposed to get on that table. So they, so I, sorry, I've never talked about this out loud before.
No, it's fine. You take your time, man.
No, it's all right. Yeah.
They removed my clothing, and sort of they didn't like put me onto the table, but they like moved closer to me, and I got on the table, and the thing that was coming from the ceiling like a light emitted from it, and it went over my body, and it seemed like it was scanning me. And I honestly, I couldn't tell you how long that went on for. It felt like it went on for a really, really long time at the time, but it couldn't have been longer than maybe 5 minutes or so. And then they after the light fit the thing, whatever it was, finished like doing whatever it was doing. One of the beings had like I really don't know what else to call it, but it looked like a metal wand thing that he came up and he sort of just held it near my mouth, and I just kind of opened my mouth because I don't know, I was like, my mind was like blank at the time. I wasn't like thinking. I don't like.
So there was no fear in you at this moment. It was just like, or was it just like an emotional numbness to the situation?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, it felt kind of like just like bloop, like I just like went blank. And it was weird because the light that was coming out of the ceiling and a guy, the being standing over me with the thing, the thing that strikes me the most was like for a split second how much it reminded me of being at the dentist's office. Yeah. And I think I opened my mouth because I'm like, well, I don't know. I just did, and they stuck the thing in there, and I didn't feel anything. Reflex. I didn't. Yeah. They stuck the metal wand thing in my mouth, and I felt it scrape against my cheek, but I didn't like feel anything. And then after that, the light thing, I believe it scanned me again, I think. And then they sort of gently helped me get off the table, and I put my clothes back on. And then they led me into this. They led me out of the room and down this like curved hallway, and the hallway kind of just opened up into this room that was darker. Like the rest of the ship seemed to have lighting. I didn't see any sort of like light on the wall or anything, but it was lit. But this room was darker. The light, wherever the light was coming from, it seemed to stop in this room. And they led me into the middle of the room where there was this like big white circle on the floor and another big white circle like on the ceiling. And then as soon as I stepped into the center of it, it began, the one on the top and the bottom began glowing really bright. And then suddenly I was back in my backyard. They led me back into my house, and I got back into bed, and I suddenly became very, very, very drowsy. I fell asleep, and that was it. And I remember there are 3 experiences that I remember clearly, insofar as I can tell, at least, like thinking about what happened and what I remember. Like 2 other experiences that went exactly like that, like exactly the same from front to back. And there are a lot of other fragmentary memories that I have of being on that craft, specifically of walking down that curved hallway. Sometimes there were some of the beings walking with me. Sometimes I was walking down that hallway alone. I have fragmentary memories of being in a different room on the craft, or at least what I assume is a different room on the same craft. I don't know. Of like sitting at it was like a table type of thing that was attached to the floor. Like it was like Like it was one solid thing that, again, it seemed like it was almost growing out of the floor, just like the other table. But
Oh, that's so weird.
yeah,
You're not the only person who talks about that, and there's a number of things that we'll
really.
go over in a little bit. The floor being spongy. So I have a very, very close friend who is an abductee that dude, I got goosebumps everywhere after hearing that. That's why that sounded so familiar, because she described the same thing, the floor being like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And now, say what you want about Bob Lazar, everybody in the chat, but interestingly enough, he and other people have said that it's like the inside of the craft that he was working on at S4. It's as if everything was molded out of like the same ball of wax. Like it was just there were like no sharp edges.
That's
which, Tom, that also marries up. I mean, I can't remember if it was in the version that we played last week of my regression, and I'm yet to get the full version of my regression last week up because my internet has been so bad. But the experience I had under regression, the room I went into, the table, there was like an oval console in the middle of the room. And this console just was tactile to touch, like it was alive, and it was just molded in a very natural shape that just then ended up going into the floor. There was no seam. Everything was white, and everything was smooth edges, and everything it felt like it was alive. You touched it and it felt like it was alive.
It felt like skin, kind of.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're absolutely, that's spot on. Then Paul has just put in, it's a shame that you weren't available for last week's regression, because I did regression hypnosis on the show last week. And it's something you should try. I mean, I would be amazed as to what would come out if you went through that. Have you ever considered doing anything like that?
I have. It's always made me a little bit nervous, because I know, there are a lot of things said about hypnotic regression therapy. I personally believe that it's an excellent tool for people with traumatic repressed memories of all sorts to help sort of remember and come to terms. But I wanted to try to get a handle on what I could remember on my own first, before remembering anything like that, before doing anything like that. But it is something I've thought about before. I also have no idea where I would even go or who I would even talk to make something like that happen. But it is something I've thought about doing before, and it is something.
We have just the right person.
Yeah, that's the issue I have, right? Because it's about finding someone I can trust, and being public with this is new. So I don't know, but yeah, it's something I'm open to, but cautious about, I guess.
Yeah, you got to take your time with that type of thing, man. I didn't really start talking about my sighting because of how close up it was for a while until I was a teenager, because I had already been interested in UFOs, and I was afraid to start talking about it because I'm like, well, how the hell are they going to believe me? I've been studying UFOs since I was able to read, and then one comes right over my head. They're just going to think that I'm full of it, right? So it's like, what am I supposed to do? So going back to these fragmented experiences, how many, do you have an idea of how many times you think they've taken you, or is it just too many at this point?
It's too many at this point, and that's something I didn't realize until I started posting about it. I have 3 memories that are clear, that are front to back, right? And then I have a 4th experience that's almost front to back. I don't remember actually being taken, but I remember being there. And in regards to the fragmentary memory thing, I'm just going to preface this, because I've already had, well, how do you know you weren't dreaming? Which is a legitimate question. I don't have any problems with people asking me questions, because I think it's pretty natural, right? I lucid dreamed a lot as a kid, a lot. And a dream test during a weird experience is something that I just did as a kid a lot. My grandfather was very into lucid dreaming and all that type of stuff, and he had given me a book about it. I was a big reader as a kid, and I was always a little bit I was always trying to read books that I was like probably way too young to read, but I read this lucid dreaming book that he gave me, and the thing that stuck with me about the book was a lucid dream test, where like what I did as a kid to this day, although I can't do it like I did when I was a kid, is to press my fingers into the palm of my hand like this, because when you're dreaming, it doesn't work right. I don't know how else to explain it. It doesn't happen the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And so I know that I wasn't dreaming. I know that like these are real experiences, and they're honestly, the more that I think about all of it, it's become quite clear to me that this is a thing that I'm almost certain now probably was happening to me throughout my childhood, and not just like a small segment of my childhood that I had always sort of thought, you know, because I always downplayed it in my mind because like I didn't know how to handle it, especially the last experience that I don't remember being taken, but I do remember being put back afterwards, was when because in between these experiences, I was like, oh, I wish I could have just like worked up the nerve to like say something to them or to ask a question, because I really wanted to know what the hell was happening to me. Like I really wanted to know. And finally, when an experience that happened when I was 10, I don't remember being taken, but I remember being on the craft. I remember walking down that curved hallway. There was one being in front of me. There were 2 or 3 beings behind me, and we walked into, and this is the only memory I have that's complete enough to connect the experiences, like all the fragmented memories together. How I'm like pretty positive I can say that all of these memories happened on the same craft. We walked down that curved hallway, and then we went from the curved hallway, and there weren't doorways, like there weren't like doors that slid open. It was just openings that like we just walked through, and we walked into the room that I have many fragment memories of being in. And I was led to this table where I sat down across from him. And again, it was one of these tables where it just seemed to be kind of growing out of the floor. The table, the floors were the same spongy white material, and I believe the table was too, but the chairs looked like little mini dentist chairs, kind of, that were just like positioned in a way. But again, I really don't know. It's like the material sort of faded from the white spongy into the metal. I'm working on like drawing and creating like images and animation about all of this just on my own, because it's really hard to describe. But so I sat across from this table with him, and there was this white cube that was sitting on the table in between us. I had sat at that point. I knew. It seemed like when I was on the craft, I'm sorry that I'm jumping around here. It seemed like when I was on the craft, I could remember more about what had happened in the past than when I was not on the craft. And I knew this is a room I had been in before. And what had typically happened in this room is he would ask me to try to move the cube without touching it. Right. But this time, before he could say that, I finally managed to push out a question. And I asked him, like, are you guys aliens? Because like a lot of people found me very annoying as a kid because I asked a lot of questions about everything, like all the time. And so like I finally managed to get the question out, and I asked them, are you guys aliens? Because like at this, like I know that like they look like what people say aliens look like, or at least that was like my logic as a kid, and he looked at me for a minute, and then he blinked. And I don't know what it was about blinking, but something about blinking made him seem not more human, but easier to relate to. Maybe, I don't know. He blinked, and then he said something in the name of like, yeah, I'm sure we seem like aliens to you. And he said that basically they were and this is what my post was about the fourth experience. He said, you know, he basically, what he told me is you Earth humans are our ancient ancestors. And he said, I'm sure that's what we seem like to you. You Earth humans are your like ancient ancestors. And then I almost interrupted him and asked him, well, why are you coming here? Like, why are you here? And well, first, I was happy that I finally managed to like get a question out. And second, like I was very used to just like being instantly dismissed and like told to go away as a kid who asked questions. So it's like, oh, this is someone who's actually answering my questions instead of just telling me to go find something to do.
Right.
Awesome. So, and he basically said they came here to study. He said there were a lot of different beings on that craft for a lot of different reasons. But what him and his colleagues, and he pointed to the three who had been walking behind me, were here to do were to study human biology at a point before humans began to integrate technology into their bodies.
Oh boy.
And he said, you know, he said, he told me that would you mind if I read from my post just so I can get what he said?
Whatever's easier
No,
for
no,
you,
it's
man.
fine.
I'm nervous. I've never done anything like this before.
No, Aaron, you're
totally
doing
okay.
absolutely fine. Don't worry, relax, you're fine.
He said many of us came for different reasons. My colleagues and I, he said, motioning towards the three beings who had walked into the room behind us, came to study human biology during a period of time before you began integrating technology into your bodies. Others on our craft came to study human systems of governance. Others to study the biology of other beings who reside on Earth with you. At our point in time, we live on a planet very far away from Earth, and the beings who live there are not friendly toward us. And a small part of me was like a little disappointed because like in my mind, I'm like, oh, so they're not really aliens, but there's gotta be aliens. So I asked, are you guys the only ones visiting us? And he said, no. He said, many beings from many worlds are visiting, some local to this point in time, others not. Though not all of them have kind intentions. We do not speak to many of them, though we do hear rumors of technological gifts given to your leaders in exchange for free reign to experiment on the humans they serve.
That lines up with a lot.
And
well,
then
all of that lines up.
And then I asked him if he liked pizza. Because that was my favorite food and it was the only thing he ate. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of popped out of my mouth. I was 10. And he said, no, your food would be toxic to us. And then he transitioned hard and immediately asked me to move the cube without touching it. I couldn't do it. And after it was a lot of tries, but I couldn't do it. And so then they led me back to the darker room with the white circles where they would always put me back. But this time they didn't. Usually a few of them would come with me into the circle and they would lead me back into my house. But this time I walked the circle alone. And they put me back in my backyard, and the light like glowed bright, just like it always had, and it shined down on me. And then when the light faded, I was in my backyard, but this time I was alone. And the craft, it kind of just, I don't know if this was it speeding away really fast, or if it just like teleported somewhere. I don't know, but all of a sudden it was just like gone. And I kind of just stood there in my backyard for like a few minutes. And I just looked around at my backyard, and I don't know how to explain, but I kind of just knew that they probably weren't going to come back again for whatever reason. I don't know if at the time I was like, ah, crap. Maybe it's because they asked me questions. Maybe it's because I asked questions. And like I have the memory, and for a minute I was kind of just thinking about all the things he had said to me, and I was kind of just walking around my backyard, just like pacing around. And finally, I went back inside through the glass patio doors, which were still open. And I closed it and I went back to bed, and they never came back after that.
And how old were you at that point? How old were you at that point, sorry?
I was 10. I was 10 and I was in 5th grade.
Wow.
And
Aaron, have you ever spoken to or have knowledge of Dr. Michael P. Masters?
No, that name sounds familiar to me, but I'm not familiar with
He's
that
somebody you
individual.
should speak to. He's written several books. One is the extra tempestrial model. So he's a very well known in this in the phenomena, and he studies the fact that he believes that the aliens that we see are basically coming from the future, coming back in time. They are future humans that are traveling back in time to understand their past and their evolution for whatever reason.
Oh wow!
He's an amazing guy. He's the most laid back person I think I've ever spoken to in my life, and he's cool as a cucumber.
But he came on our show, and that was such an interesting conversation. Like, and he's had experiences.
I'll definitely check out his work. I'll definitely check out his work. I didn't know.
I can't remember what his Twitter handle is now, but if you look up Dr. Michael P. Masters on X, you'll find him. I have a line to him as well. I will drop him a message and suggest that maybe the two of you have a conversation, because I think he would find it absolutely fascinating. And for the simple fact that you do not know who Mike Masters is, and the fact that you've said everything that you've just said, which marries up so much with what Mike has said himself and what he believes and what he is studying, I just think gives you more kudos.
And
I would be super glad to talk to him. Because I felt like really crazy for a very big portion of my life, because I knew that I mean it happened. People can believe me or they want. I don't really care whether or not people believe me. It happened. If you can either be a part of the conversation or you won't be. It happened. I'm not the only, I know I'm not the only one it's happened to. So I'm always willing to connect with other people who have experiences or theories or anything and everything. So yeah.
I think that's the thing though, when you are telling the truth as well, you don't care if people believe you or not, because right? And for you to say that as well, I think adds an awful lot, because if you're lying, your sole purpose is to make people believe you, and it's frustrating and annoying when people don't. When you know the truth, you stop caring whether people believe you or not. And I can echo that statement. Just as I got back into reinvestigating the phenomenon in the last 2 years, I would used to care whether I thought if it was real or not. I'd want to be looking for that answer. Is this real or is it not? I don't care anymore. I know it's real. I don't need proof from anybody else. I don't. But I do like having the opportunity like this, and with the show with Tom every week, to try and investigate it for others, so others come to the conclusion for themselves as to whether they believe it to be true or not.
Yeah, because it's happening. I know that's something that's hard for a lot of people to accept, but listen, it's real. It's happening. You can say what you want about me. You can whatever. It happened.
How do you feel about what's happened to you now, looking back on it? Is it something that keeps you up at night? Do you still have that sort of emotional numbness to it, or is it something that keeps you up, or are you sort of glad that it happened because you had this experience that other people haven't?
I'm in a place now where I'm grateful that I can be a part of what is a very, very important movement for transparency and destigmatization on this topic in general. But for a long, long time, I had a lot of fear surrounding the experience, a lot of fear. It made me feel small as a kid. It made me feel really small, suddenly knowing that the universe is big, like these people who say they're from the future, who look like aliens. Just, it was all very terrifying to me and then like to know that there are others out there and they don't have kind intentions, whatever that means, what he said. I felt a lot of fear about it for a very, very long time. And when I sort of realized that, like, okay, I need to share what happened to me because this is important, I really had to sort of sit in surrender to that fear and really like feel it and think about it and confront it. And after I did that, I sort of came to the conclusion, like, wow, so this is really something that I need to come forward with this, because
Powerful.
we can't wait for the government, we can't wait for the military, we can't wait for these people, because they're the line. When I think about relying solely on the military and the government for disclosure, it reminds me of that line from The Dark Knight Rises where they talk about the law being shackles, right? And those people are entrenched and shackled by, whether it's by, retaliatory threats like David Grush's experienced, or by NDAs, whatever. I don't have any of those shackles. And like you said, that's why I very much agree. And I had seen, I think it was Astral had posted something about this the other day, like experiencers, like, are going to be important coming forward. And listen, I don't think of myself as like some important person. Like I'm just a guy, and another thing is I think this is something that has happened to a lot more people than anyone realizes.
I agree with that.
I have nothing, and I can feel it in my bones. I don't know how else to say it. I can feel it in my bones that this is something that has happened to a lot of people. And just seeing some of the comments in my posts and all these people who have been saying, yeah, something weird did kind of happen to me, and like hundreds of people. So like, it's just like this, this is just an important thing that really needs to be talked about. And I'm in a place now where, as someone who has been an educator, who has studied history, like this is, and is also someone who has been a special educator, who has worked with special needs adults, who's had to help a lot of people who have been through traumatic experiences. Like, this was a traumatic experience for me. I was a child who was taken out of my home in the night and like scanned or whatever by beings not of this world. And I was completely alone. Like, until very recently, I felt very alone. Like, this is something that needs to be talked about, if for no other reason than like, this is something that like trauma counselors need to start to become informed about. This is something that the stigma really needs to be ripped away from this, because it happens. I feel like it's happening to a lot of people, and it's something that a lot of people need help dealing with. Like, the truth is really important. The truth about all this needs to come out. But like, this is happening, whether you wanted to believe it or not. And there are a lot of people suffering with memories they have no ability to process on their own. And there aren't very many there's not very many people, if anyone at all, that can help them through that without, prescribing them meds and, directing them to this nice little padded room. You know what I mean?
I think it's very interesting, the fact that since David Grush came out and we've had hearings in Congress and the pilots are starting to talk and everything like this, which is all really, really great stuff. It's kind of diverted the conversation away from abductions a lot. And I think that that's more than just a coincidence, because the government do not want to touch abductions. They want to stay well clear of it. And the reason behind, as you've already alluded to is because that they have agreed to do it and they have a hand in it. Certainly, in some instances, it may not be the situation with the beings that took you. I don't know. But it sounds like that wasn't the case with the beings that took you, because they mentioned others that had a deal with the government. And I think that, Tom and I, we need to do more episodes like this where we speak to people like you, because this is where we get down to the real nitty gritty of it. I mean, yes, it's great having, some famous ufologist on the show, but they are researching, and they're doing a great job of it. But we need to get down to the grassroots and give people like Arron the time of day to speak their truth, because that's the only way that us, the people watching or listening to this now, will be able to make informed decisions by ourselves.
We need more data.
We do, and you're an important part of that. And honestly, I've spoken to a lot of experiencers, especially over like the last couple
Fringe
of years.
Is in the chat.
Yeah, and Fringe is very much in that camp. She's had some incredible experiences that have affected her in a powerful way. And honestly, this one's probably the most emotional for me, because I can feel it coming off of you. Like,
yeah,
I like, there are things that I'm noticing. Like, just, I'm not going to go into like scrupulous detail, but like, I can tell that this has affected you, like, literally down to your spirit. I mean, I can see it. And like you said, if people want to believe it, that's on them. That's not what this is about anymore. I dealt with anxiety disorder. I'm medicated for it. I'm not ashamed. I don't give a damn what anybody thinks. It helped fix my life. I developed it in my 20s. And when I think about some of those incidents, that's what this reminds me of. Like, there was a fear and a loneliness and a helplessness associated with that I can't even describe. And I can see it in your eyes. I know that feeling. For different reasons, obviously. And I suspect, for my own reasons, I think I'm probably an abductee, but I don't have... All I have are very, very tiny, strange, fragmented memories. I don't have a full recall on anything like you do, and I'm trying to figure that out. But I have unusual scars. I have scoop marks that have appeared overnight and then disappeared and then came back on the other leg. Like, there are things that have happened to me that just make no sense, that a lot of people don't even know about. Digby doesn't even know some of this. Nobody does. So something is happening, and it's time to really start thinking about how we're going to handle this moving forward, because at the end of the day, it's not just about truth, like you said, but there are real consequences for this. The way that someone lives their life, it's like, this is a battle for certain people. When they're trying to go to bed every night, they're afraid to turn the light off. Like, and some people have really, like, enlightening experiences. Like you said, these beings that communicated with you, which matches up with what I personally believe, that there are many beings visiting from many worlds for many reasons. And maybe one group is potentially, our future ancestors. That doesn't surprise me. Like, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of different things going on at once, and that's why this is also very complicated. But we have to really, really start taking care of people like you and other people who are suffering as a result of this. The stigma, being made fun of. Oh, you're crazy. You should go see a doctor. What the hell is wrong with you? Like, that shit has to stop. It pisses me off. I have friends who I have literally seen, like, crumple in front of me. Crumple. Like, and it's really hard to talk about sometimes, but people that are very dear to me that just absolutely withered in front of me over stuff like this out of fear and embarrassment and shame. And it's like, that's one of the main reasons why I do this show and want to get experiencers on here, because you guys need a voice. You need a place where you can talk and not be afraid and not be judged. And if someone comes into our chat and starts doing that thing, I will kick them the fuck out. I won't deal with that. And I don't kick people out of the chat, but that's one circumstance where I will.
Tom, you're getting feisty lately.
To be able to speak. I'm a little feisty lately. That's true. Maybe it's
post-COVID
feistiness.
I like it
because I see it in your eyes, Arron. Like, it's guy to guy. I know, like, I'm just some random podcaster from the internet, but like your words have tremendously affected me over like the last hour. Like, there's a lot of emotion behind what you're saying. I believe you. I want you to know that. In the least, Digby and I in this chat, we believe you, and I have your back in this, man. Seriously, because
I appreciate that.
I feel like people need to be here for each other. The government's not going to do it. Military's not going to do it. Maybe some people, right? Some people, Grush and others that are trying, but this is going to come down to us, and we really have to wrap ourselves around each other and hold tight. I believe that.
Also, on that note as well, I put a post in the comments a few minutes ago. I think it's amazing how everybody that watches this show live and contributes in the chat is so supportive week after week. Some of the messages that have been coming in for you, Arron, have been really, really nice. Everybody is completely supportive, and it's just so nice to see when UFO Twitter, UFO X is filled with people spouting hate towards people all the time. To know that this show every week is like a little haven where people can come on and talk to each other. Everybody says hello to each other in the chat every week. It's wonderful. And, you know, to have you come on, Arron, to talk about something that is incredibly difficult for you, to do it with such wonderful people in the chat, throwing so much support around is amazing. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's doing that in the chat this evening.
I appreciate everybody. Also, the internet can be a mean, nasty, derogatory, toxic place. Our community can be a mean, nasty, toxic, derogatory place sometimes. One of the reasons I really love what you guys are doing, and I'm a fan of the podcast, is because you guys, I really like your approach, that feeling of that sense of community and that like sense of a safe place to talk about stuff like this is important, because it's hard to find places like this. So I'm very appreciative to everybody, you know, in the chat, and like super appreciative to you guys, you know, for that same reason.
I appreciate that. That's a huge compliment to just personally, like, I made someone feel good today. You know, that's like, I always try to do that every day of my life. So I appreciate that. I really do. Wow. I'm very like, my eyes are watery over this one. Genuinely. I'm like, I don't even know where to go next with this conversation. I'm so like,
sorry, I've just been messaging my wife in the background. Sorry, Arron, in the chat there's my wife, Katie Furno. If Arron hasn't had any trauma release for these events, I'd highly recommend it. My wife is a very capable hypnotherapist, and she works online, and I've just messaged her. And if you would like, she is happy to do a trauma release session with you online at a time that works for you for free.
Yeah, I am, you know, seeking therapy and going to therapy is another one of those things with a lot of stigma around. I am absolutely not ashamed to say that, like, you know, the therapy, that is something that I'm seeking out.
Yeah.
And
well, if you want it,
you know,
you've got me on X. Just drop me a message or look up my wife on X as well. She's Katie Furno Hypnotherapy, but she'll happily do that session with you free of charge. She's very touched and moved by what you've been saying this evening. She said it gave her goosebumps. So if you want that, it's there. Please do take it. It's just, you know, it's something that she's offering because she means it and she wants to do it, not because she feels like she should. So it's there for you if you wish.
I appreciate that. I really do.
You're more than welcome.
This is
I just don't really know where we go from here. Really, you know, when you have a conversation and you're just like, oh my God, my brain's just been hit by 10 tons of bricks.
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
And it lines up with so much that I wonder about and think is going on. And it's like, here's this individual, he comes on the show and just rattles it all off one by one by one. And I'm like, wow, it just all lines up. So I guess, you know what? I have a good question, Arron. Where do you think this is going right now? Like with disclosure and everything, what do you think's really happening?
What it seems like to me is, when it comes to the physical crafts, when it comes to pilot sightings, when it comes to, there seems to be a very specific subset of things that the military-industrial complex is comfortable with people knowing about. But it's like there's this wall that, like, they just don't want anybody to get past when it comes to disclosure. And I wish I could remember who said it, but someone said it on X the other day. Like, I think it was someone quoting John Ramirez, former CIA agent. I hope I'm getting his name right, where he says, like, he was talking about Roswell, and he was saying, you know, the thing about Roswell, the reason why Roswell is kept a secret is because in order to disclose about Roswell, you have to disclose about the occupants of the craft that crashed in Roswell. And it seems like this wall that keeps being hit is the occupant angle and the direct experience angle. It seems like to me that experiencers coming forward is important, because we don't have shackles on us. We don't. I'm just a dude. I'm not like, I don't look at myself as like some important, like I'm just a guy. And I don't think my experience is uncommon. I don't think I'm alone at all. I think this is something that happens to a lot of people. And I think especially like people of like our generation, I think it's probably more common than anyone would ever expect. So that's kind of what it seems like right now to me.
Yeah.
Sandy makes a good point in the chat as well. And I'm very aware of this. John Ramirez has mentioned there being an angle to the occupants that specifically creates this wall, that their DNA is highly, highly suspiciously close to ours, as if we're related. And there's a lot that he talks about too, like an event coming up, and there's a lot of mention of that in the community from people like yourself, Arron, who have apparently spoken to these beings, have had downloads and things, and they say that a great change is coming. There is some sort of event. And what's really interesting too is that since the 90s into now, there has been a very significant decrease in specific types of abduction experiences that involve these medical experiments and the reproductive angle. Like, a lot of that seems to have stopped. And that's interesting, because if this was just being created by our brains, why would that suddenly stop in all these people? Maybe it stopped because they finished their work.
Because the operation complete, experiment over. Yeah,
but it's not over. Apparently, they're entering this other phase, and there's a lot to this. There's the walking among us angle, and the hybrids coming down here angle, and I don't really know what it all adds up to, but
it's a lot.
It's heavy.
I've said this before. If we're working on the extraterrestrial model and there are future versions of ourselves from another planet, and I said this when we were talking to Mike Masters, if they left this Earth and they dissipated throughout the galaxy and then ended up evolving on different planets all over the place, then they would be on a different evolutionary path, because they would have different environmental factors around them. My question is why did they leave Earth? Why did they have to go somewhere? And is it related to anything that's coming up in our not so distant future? There is an awful lot of talk at the moment about any number of natural disasters, whether it's climate change and what that really is, or what really causes that, who knows. But I like a lot of things, I think we don't know all the information on it. I mean, most things, let's face it, we don't have all the information on. There's talk of solar flares, polar shifts, all this sort of stuff that seems like we are on the edge of anything that could be thrown at us at any second. And I think that there is truth behind all of it. Are we on the edge of some big disaster, whether it be natural or man-made, that have set these future versions of ourselves on this path? And are they coming back now? And have they been coming back over the years? Because we are at that point now, just before this happened. Is now the time to investigate, to abduct, to test, because this is the point in time before everything changed. That's what I want to know.
And artificial intelligence too, like you said, before we merge with technology. And I mean, we're right there. I mean, it's already started. Neuralink, you can, if you want to count prosthetic limbs, that's the very, very beginnings of that. And I always found it very suspicious that this sudden disclosure transparency movement goes into full gear at the same exact time that Chat GPT and Midjourney and all of these things do. There's something there. right? Aaron, you see, it seems
Oh,
like it's
yeah.
clicking, right?
Oh yeah, you know, as an artist, as like a comic artist, AI is something I've been very aware of, and it's I've tracked its development. I've messed with it a little bit myself, and it's kind of impossible to ignore the connection between all of this stuff, like AI and, you know, technology integration. I believe I saw Elon Musk say that they've had their first like human that they put it in, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
they did. And it was successful. Whatever that means.
Honestly,
Means they're not dead.
That scares the crap out of me. That scares
It does. It
holy
is
hell out of me.
scary. It is scary. There's no question about it. I'm an artist too, and I in my YouTube content creation, a lot of times I'll generate images with Midjourney to better describe something that I'm talking about. Because I'm just tired of going and grabbing the same random images that everybody's using in their videos. It's like, no, I want to show the guy and the orange ball of
Yeah.
light. Like I want to actually show that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to like
Yeah.
really bring it to life. And that's what I use it for. And I Photoshop a lot of it to make it to my liking. And it takes a long time. And I use it for that. But I try not to let it like take over all of my work. I don't let it write my scripts for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I try to use it as an extension of myself. And I think
Yeah, I mean,
we're on the edge of that though. We're on the edge of either we're going to get really lazy and really start letting it do everything for us, or we're going to wield it like a mighty sword and conquer our problems.
Yeah, it's like, is this going to be the shining beacon of hope for humanity, or is this where we turn into the chair people from Wall-E?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, quite. It depends. It does depend how we use it. I mean, I use AI. I use ChatGPT, and I use it all the time. I use it because I grew up with crippling dyslexia. You know, I can read and I can write absolutely fine. But you ask me to read a book, and it takes me so much concentration to read the words that are in front of me that my brain isn't actually taking in what I'm reading. So I can speak very eloquently and use my voice very, very well. But when it comes to sitting down in front of a computer and trying to type something out, I can't do it. Now, all of a sudden, I have the ability to dictate what I want to say to AI, get it put through AI, and then I can get my sentences rearranged into the right order so a normal person whose brain isn't wired backwards can understand it. And it's given me a superpower over the last year since playing around with it. I no longer feel like I'm playing the game with both hands tied behind my back. I feel like the ability that I have in my brain, which works in a different way to an awful lot of people, all of a sudden has its outlet where I can get that out to other people. And because of that, in the last year, I think I've probably been 10 times more productive in doing certain things, like setting up the business I'm setting up at the moment with Tom, doing the podcast, getting myself organized and everything like that. So for me, it's enabled that superpower in me to come out. But we can't just let AI do the work for us. Like, you know, AI, write me something about this, you know, or give me a picture for this, or, you know, it has its uses. And I think we need to be careful about the way that we use it. But, you know,
It's a balance for sure.
Yeah.
it is a balance.
Don't rely on it so much. Use it as a tool. Use it as an extension of yourself. Don't let it become the content creator. Let it create the content with you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a definite
Yeah.
truth, man. Definite truth.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't invent a car so that, you know, do you know what I mean? It's like we used to have horse and cart. It's like, oh, I'm not going to use the car. I'm going to stick with my horse and cart. Because,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
it's
Because
gonna
I'm a
go.
purist and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, there's some people do, but do you know what I mean? The technology is there and it's available, and yeah, you can use a knife to cook, or you can use a knife to kill, and it's you choose the way you want to use it. Take that weapon and use it for good, or take that weapon and use it for bad.
That's huge. That's huge. Digby.
I quite like that. You can take it. I just came up with that. Now I'm quite happy with that one.
Aaron, I don't know how much time you have. Do you have more? Are you free for the foreseeable future? It's okay if you say no too. I just don't. We don't want to keep you here if you have other engagements for the day as well. Just trying to be courteous.
Oh, no, it's fine. I can hang around for like maybe 10, 15 more minutes or so.
That sounds good. Okay, that sounds really great. I mean, let me ask you this. As someone who's gone through these experiences and such, how do you quantify the different morphologies and the craft and all those things? Do you think it really is what those beings told you, that there's just many beings, many different worlds, or do you think that they were completely honest with you? Is That's probably a good question. Or do you think that they were pulling your leg? Like, do you believe them?
Um, I do believe them. Obviously, like they could have he could have been lying to me. I would have no way of knowing.
Right.
But I think also coming from a place of automatic right from the get-go mistrust is assigning human motivations to things that are very much not human.
Mm.
I believe I'm inclined to believe what he said because it would explain a lot of things. It would explain why there are so many different type of craft morphologies, but because there are a lot of different beings with different crafts from different places. It seems to me, based on my own experiences and my own research, what it seems like is going on is that a lot of different beings from a lot of different places, and also a lot of different craft for a lot of different purposes.
Great answer.
Like the craft that took me, that was clearly meant for, like, research, study, and abduction. But that's not to say that every single craft is meant for that. I'm inclined to believe what he said because it fits, it makes sense. And when I'm looking at any data set, I'm just looking to see what fits together and what doesn't. And what he told me, it fits,
Paul actually asked my next question, and because I was wondering about this. Were they speaking to you telepathically, or did you hear a voice? Like, how did that come through?
He was speaking to me out loud. His voice was a little raspy. It was deep, and he spoke very quietly. And it seemed like English wasn't his first language. It was an accent that I have never once heard it, from any other mouth but that being's. It was some sort of accent and just like a low, quiet, raspy sort of voice.
That's fascinating. I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
No, me neither. Sorry.
That's really interesting. I mean, I've heard reports of voices and such, but the accent part of that's new. I have not heard that. That's really interesting. Arron, I got to give you a lot of credit, man. The way that you dissect your own experiences is really thoughtful, actually. Like, some people have these experiences and they're like, aliens took me. Oh my God, I don't know. You are really you're really thinking about these things and picking them apart and analyzing them, which is huge, because then there's, obviously a greater understanding of your own experiences that you can convey to us. I'm impressed, honestly. I think you have really, really looked into your own encounters with a magnifying glass. It's really cool to see, actually.
Well, I've as an educator, as a writer, I've tried my best to separate myself from my experiences when I've been analyzing them and trying to make sense of it all. So that's sort of how I've approached all of it.
Sandy's just said in the chat, and a few other people have been talking about this as well, about why they wanted you to move the cube. And it's really interesting. Do you have any insight to that?
The cube. Yeah, that is something that I've had in some of the comment sections of some of my posts. Someone said something really interesting. I really wish, I'm not going to sit here and scroll to find the comments. Whoever you are, it was a really insightful thing. They said, well, okay, so if these are beings from our future who want to study us from a time before technology was integrated into our body, one can then follow the logical assumption that these beings have technology integrated into their body. And given that it seems as if they have sort of moved on to a different evolutionary path of wherever, planet that they are now from, it may be that they can no longer tell the difference between the tech and themselves. And that perhaps asking me to try to move this cube was them trying to see if a purely biological human could interact with their tech and make it move in the way they'd be able to. And that, like, I don't think that's a connection I would have made. And it, I don't know, it makes a lot of sense to me.
That's really insightful. I'm going to find that comment. I'm going to message that person.
I
like that a lot.
On the very latest post I made about all of it.
Gotcha. I'm definitely gonna have to look into that. It makes a lot of sense too. Like, you know, there's this idea too that like they're so far gone down the technological path, and this is where it gets a little spiritual. And I don't know, you know, where you lean in that direction, but there's this belief that perhaps if there is a source that we're all connected to, which I believe would be like a consciousness field, that they've like accidentally severed their connection to it, and that essentially they can't die like we die, and that they're just the victims of they're at entropy's mercy at this point.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it, at least.
I've never thought about it like that, but that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not like
no souls.
I'm not like a religious person at all, but I do believe in some sort of source. I do believe that, like, you know, these meat suits are just sort of receivers of something else that manifests as our consciousness. That's kind of where I'm at in regards to all that. And that would make a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah, I made a diagram last night. Can I show this real quick, Digby, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go for it.
Let me just, I just want to pull it out. It's actually in our UAPOD folder. Yeah, so I was messing around with ChatGPT last night, and there's this feature where you can hook up to this website called Whimsical. You can make diagrams. I'm working on a video about non-local consciousness, and I was like, well, I want to just create a diagram where I could just show this to somebody and be like, here, and they'll be like, oh, I totally get it. Now, rough draft, but this is what I came up with here. That the source consciousness field is like in a higher dimension. The reception process is similar to how a radio, you know, picks up radio waves, and here are our brains, but the brain also acts as a filter. We're in the third dimension, so because this field is in a higher dimension, it basically has like an overhead view of our third dimension. Like we're like in a snow globe, or you can picture like a person that's in a closed room in like a high-rise building, and they have their cell phone, and there's a drone outside that's flying around, giving them information that they wouldn't be able to normally access. But we're hooked up to that with our brains, and this would explain remote viewing, shared dreams, and things of that sort, because it literally has like an aerial view of everything.
This pretty much lines up exactly with like sort of what I've always come to believe, just based off of what I can figure out just on my own, you know.
And it sort of marries up with what was spoken about last week, and the fact that during my regression, I seem to transcend time and space to a different state of consciousness. And I think I said something along the lines, it's like our bodies are a 3D representation or a 3D shadow of the 5D version of ourselves.
That's great.
You know, and it's just what we can see, this part of our consciousness. And I think I feel like we're kind of moving out of the era of religion and heading into an era of spirituality and consciousness. And I think religion played its part in the past as a way that we could perceive what was actually going on. And that's why we have the storytelling the way that we do. I think there are elements of truth in all religions, and that it was their way of interpreting what they were seeing and what they were experiencing. And I think now, as we move on, I think this is the next evolution of mankind, where we actually really start realizing our place in the universe and how we are connected to it, and how everything is almost symbiotic in the sense, you know, we are the universe. The universe is us. We're all made out of the same atoms, the same molecules, and the very fabric of what you and I are made of, the very atoms that we are made of, were born in the heart of a dying star millions of years ago. The same atoms, you know. They don't just get created, they just change into something else. And I think when you start realizing that that's the case, then, you know, we are just we are in a meat suit, a biological building blocks housing something that transcends physical reality. You know, you for instance, you build a Lego house, I'm not going to start singing an Ed Sheeran song now, but you knock it down. Oh no, I am. I am going to. I did it again. You build a Lego house and then you knock it down, and what do you do afterwards? You use those same pieces to build something else, and that's the same as with everything in the universe. Yeah. So, but our consciousness doesn't work the same way. So our consciousness is the constant. And everything else is the housing of it, so the consciousness can come and go and move somewhere else and be somewhere else, but the building blocks, that's all they are. That's all our body is. It's the building blocks that house something else.
I think it makes the most sense. Now, obviously, we're getting close to the end here. Hey, Digby, you want to hit the button?
Oh yes, you just got me. There you go. There's the button.
Speculation station.
I am chilling out with my feet up, not concentrating whatsoever. The joys of not.
It's because you don't have the camera on because your internet is bunk.
Relax, my feet's up. It's great.
So, Arron, at the end of each show, we do this segment where we like to leave the viewers with a really interesting question or group of questions for them to kind of ponder the rest of the day. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I like to give it off to the guest because, usually a guest isn't going to be here every week with us, and it's like a one-time thing. So, I mean, we'd love to have you back, obviously, but I'm really curious if you could leave everybody with something to think about, and maybe it doesn't necessarily even have to be a question. It could be a statement, but it could be anything. Something to send everybody off with for them to think about the rest of their day.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about earlier, you can believe us or not. But the fact of the matter is that while I never did feel threatened, while I never did feel coerced, I was a child who was taken out of my home in the middle of the night without my consent, without my parents' consent, without my parents' knowledge, and like medical testing or scanning or whatever you want to call it was done on me. And this isn't just something that's happened to me only. This is something that happens to people of all ages all over the planet. Like, kids are getting taken from their homes and brought onto crafts without anyone's knowledge. They could have flown away and no one ever would have seen me again. I'm not someone who buys into the threat narrative, but what I am saying is this is something that really needs to be talked about. This is I guess if I were to leave everybody with the question, isn't this something everyone should be aware of and talking about? Because this is something that it's important, people of all ages, not to, take away from people who experience this as adults. We're being taken without our consent onto crafts that come from who knows where. And it leaves people with trauma. It leaves people with it really just shapes and affects, for better or worse, people's life. So isn't this something that everyone really needs to just get the hell over themselves and start talking about,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's huge. I love
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. And on that point, if you're watching and you've had an experience that's similar to Arron or something that's completely different, I'm sure there are completely different experiences out there. We want to hear them, and our viewers want to hear them, and we want to get this message out. So, please, if you have something that you wish to talk about that's along these lines, please reach out to us. You can email me at digby@paradigmmediamg.com, and that's newparadigmmg.com. That's digby@newparadigmmg.com. Email me or look me up or Tom up on X. Send us a message. We'd love to hear from you and have you on the show. Tom, over to you.
I'm very, and I mean this in the best way, I'm emotionally drained from this conversation, but in a good way. And I think that goes to show
Yeah,
how
I feel
real this is
rattled.
for you. But it's fascinating. I have a lot of things that I'm going to be kind of thinking about the rest of the day. And when you randomly start talking to somebody that describes something so odd, like the floor being spongy, and then you recall that conversation that you had with a friend of yours that you know in real life from 2 years ago, and they told you the same thing, and that was the only time you ever really heard that.
That's wild.
How do you explain that, right? Like, I mean, it's like, is it possible that it's a coincidence? Sure, but it's not. I don't think it is.
I agree.
Be too specific.
I agree. Arron, thank you so much for your time. Tom and I are going to wrap up the show now, and we'll message you later on to once again say thank you. Please stay in touch, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, guys. Thank you for having me, and I really love what y'all are doing with the New Paradigm Media Group and your podcasts, and like Tom, your videos. Like, big fan of all y'all's work. So yeah, I always would be happy to come back.
That means a lot, and you're really, really brave for coming on here and speaking your truth, and I commend you for that, man. And if you need anything from us, DMs are open, emails open. You have my phone number, obviously, man. Reach out if you need anything.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Arron, take care. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, y'all too. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Tom, what we should do in the future, I think maybe once we've had a few more experiences come on the show, we should do a round table with experiences. I think that'd
be really cool. I don't know if I've ever even seen that before outside of like certain TV shows, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I think it would be a really nice touch. But right, shall we move over to something a bit more lighthearted? Because at the beginning of the show, I promised everybody a video of Paul singing in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, put him on the spot. Oh, no.
He said it's fine. He loves it.
Oh, okay.
He's an attention-seeking whore.
Unbelievable.
No,
are you queuing it up?
I can't. I've got no internet. You have to do it.
That's right. Yeah, your upload speed is a disaster.
Rubbish.
All right, let me see. Well, there's a few.
The first one he sent us was longer, I think. I don't know, Paul. You can choose.
Let's see what we got. Yeah, there's a 3-minute 23 to 28.
Yeah, play the start of that one. Play the long one, but we can always cut it off early. I was actually very impressed with Paul's singing, I have to say. Yeah, he wants you to play the AC/DC one.
So I guess that's the 323?
Yeah, 323, yes.
Okay, let me share a screen. And go to window and go to
Paul is available for weddings and bar mitzvahs, aren't you, Paul?
Here we go.
Oh, there's no audio. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, Paul's saved by the fact there's no audio. Why is that not working? Tom, nobody else can hear the audio. Tom.
Got to get to the chorus at least.
Tom, nobody can hear the audio, only you.
What'd you say?
Nobody else can hear the audio, only you.
Oh my God, it was so loud. Why is it muted? I got a better. Hold on, I got a better. Well, you know what? Welcome to UAPOD, where we do things in real time. Here, I got a better way of doing it. I don't know why.
Upload it. Upload it.
Yeah. I'll just download it.
Oh
quick.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, and everyone's just like,
and I'm like shouting down the microphone. Tom, nobody can hear it.
I thought you were just agreeing with me on how great it was.
Then there was a point where I was waving at the screen, and then I was like, oh, I'm not even on camera, so that's not going to work.
All right, here we go, guys. This is just freaking-tastic. Let me see here. There we go. Can you hear it now?
Yeah, it's just really loud.
All right, here we'll bring it down a little bit.
Come on.
Good hip movement out of Paul right there.
Look at them moves.
He's got moves, man.
That's brother.
I could have been in this too. It's so easy to play.
Not so easy to sing, though, mate.
Yeah, the singing's not my strong suit. That's great. Only on our show would this happen.
What a
That's
show!
great.
What
That
a
is
show.
so good. That is so
Well done,
good.
Paul.
Good job,
As I
Paul.
said,
Good job,
he's
man. That's
available for weddings and bar mitzvahs, possibly funerals too.
$200 an hour.
Yep, that's
At
what we
least.
pin the man
That's the
down.
cheap price.
Yeah, he gets $10 an hour out of that.
Premium
Keep
package
cranking
will
back.
get you having Paul sing in a Speedo.
Yeah, and it's
That's the
more if you want
premium
him to keep his clothes on.
It's ridiculous. Oh my god, we are goofs, man. Seriously.
Yeah, we are. That's why.
Don't ever
it's so
lose
much
touch with your inner child, I swear. Don't ever do
Yeah,
it.
Peter frickin' Pan over here.
This was a really
everybody-
interesting episode.
It was. He
Really
does
good
that.
interview.
It
to
was
bring
a
everybody
really,
back up.
really good interview. Really good interview. And I think you could tell by the way I was speaking, I couldn't get some of my words out because I was just, I don't know, just in shock by the clarity in which he spoke, but also the very fact that, you know, his body language, the way he was looking, the way he, you know, you could see that he was literally trying to recall as he was speaking, you know. And I have to say, I completely and utterly believe in what he spoke about. I really do.
It reminded me of some of the times that I've spoken about my experience. There were like certain facial expressions where I'm like, I know what you're feeling right now. It struck me really hard.
Yeah.
Struck me really, really hard. Which is why sometimes after doing stuff like that, it's like let's take a deep breath. Let's be positive. For all I know, Aaron could have seen this last segment with Paul, and if he did, I hope it put a smile on his face. Aaron's a very talented guy, and he seems really genuine, really down to earth, and had an extraordinary experience that he's now just opening up about, you know, later on in life. So, Aaron, if you're still watching, man, we're here for you. Seriously, like anything that I can do, I don't care what time of day it is. You know, shoot me a message, or there's a lot of good people on X if you ever need support. That goes for anybody that's an experiencer out here too. Like if this is something that you're not necessarily willing to talk about publicly, but you just want somebody who's going to at least listen, Digby and I are here for that. Sandy, Paul, there's a lot of good people. Heather,
Tom, when
Burns,
are we
really
getting
good.
Fringe on the show?
Whenever Fringe wants.
Fringe, what are you
Damn
doing
it.
next Sunday? Come on, Fringe.
I think we already have
Send-
something for next Sunday.
Do we? Well, look, Fringe, we want you on the show, so please send me a message over the coming weeks. And Tom, we need to find you a guest to come on the show for the week.
For the
I am
10th.
away. I'm going back to England for the weekend.
Flying solo. Tom is flying solo, but what I'm going to do is either if for any reason we're not able to get a guest or whatever, because it's not always guaranteed, I will make sure that I have stuff for you guys. Little presentation, whatever it may be. Maybe I'll do both. Maybe I'll go for 4 hours. You know what I mean? I'm in control. And I don't have to worry about Digby having to go to bed, right, Digby?
Screw you.
You tired bastard.
You bitch.
I'm one to talk who woke up to your phone call this morning. I was just like,
I always have to wake you up on
Yeah.
Sundays, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's just...
hey man, yeah,
long
you know,
time.
just haven't had breakfast yet.
For everybody
just here.
listening, Tom is
That-
not a morning person, but we
No.
did manage to squeeze in a business meeting at 10 a.m. your time this morning, so that's not too bad.
And shout out to Astral. I'm so excited to have him on board with us for New Paradigm, man. That's so great.
Everybody in the chat is wanting
So
to see
happy.
Fringe.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love Fringe so much. Like, she has such interesting posts, and she sees the darker side of this and isn't afraid to talk about it, and I appreciate that. That's how I am. I know that's how you are too. Like,
Well, you
we
need
gotta
to be able
talk
to
about
see
those
the
things.
dark side so that you
Gotta
can
talk
also
about
see
it.
the light.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah, I know that
Deep
now
breath.
more than ever. Indeed.
Deep breath.
Indeed. Guys, everybody watching, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching episode 22 of the Unidentified Anomalous podcast. I will try to be back on video next week if the internet works here in Morocco. If not, I will pick a different photo of me not holding a beer because I'm
generate
looking at
one?
that. I'm
Can I
looking
make
at
an
that
AI one?
picture, and I'm in an alcohol-free zone going, God, that beer looks good.
Let me make one with AI. I'll make you a few today, and I'll send them over to you and be like, here, just in
The
case.
last image you made of me in AI made me look like Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad.
What's wrong with that?
I'm not a crackhead.
You're the danger. He wasn't either. He was just selling meth.
He was really intelligent. I am
He was
Bryan
not
Cranston.
using the meth.
No,
I love Bryan Cranston so much. That's my favorite show, full disclosure, of all time. I absolutely love Breaking Bad. I've seen it like 5 times, like the whole way through.
Yeah, that's good.
And you go back and you find things that you missed. My parents watch it. They love that. They love Better Call Saul. Just such good stuff, man. That's prime TV. Dutch UAP disclosure says, I just took a beer because of your picture. Now you are influencing others, Digby. Congratulations. Yeah. Your tentacles have reached the masses. Thanks for being here again with me, Digby, for another week of the show, and to the chat. We love you all so much. It really feels like we have a community growing here. It's more people little by little every week, and that is really special. And I'm so thankful for it.
Indeed. One last shameless plug: newparadigmmg.com. Head over there and buy some freaking merch. Just do it. Just do it. I would point, but I can't because my picture's frozen. But just go there.
Right down there.
There's some really cool merch. newparadigmmg.com/store and buy all the
new merch on the way.
New merch on the way. And as we said at the beginning of the show, if you want to get involved, drop me an email at digby@newparadigmmg.com with your designs for t-shirts or beanies or stickers or whatever. And if we like them, we'll put them up on the site and you will get paid, my friend. So yeah, get on that. We're nothing if not part of the community and willing to give back.
Love it. That's all I want to do. Make everybody happy and have a good time.
Love it, and I love you all. Wow, this is the longest goodbye ever. I don't like goodbyes.
Ever. It's because we enjoy being here. We don't like leaving. You know, that's part of it. Digby, I love you, man. This was so good, and best of luck through the week too. I'm sure, obviously, we speak basically every day, but best of luck with the new pets and stuff. And good on you for doing that, man. Really good on you for doing that. It makes me so happy. Yeah, I saw her comments in the chat earlier.
It makes you happy. It makes her so happy.
And like literally, you're gonna get like a photo while you're back in England of her cuddling up with Nala and the cat. Like this is.
No, I'm gonna get a photo when I'm back home in England, and it's gonna be her and the kids going, "We found this baby donkey by the side of the road.
We found this. We found this young Gigantosaurus."
Yeah, there's a camel.
He's a little big for the house, but we have a spot for him in the backyard.
Yeah, absolutely. Right under the palm tree. Right, anyway.
It's Triceratops.
Rubbish. Love you all. Bye-bye. Say bye-bye, Tom.
Take care, everybody. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.